What would you say, dude? What is the most misconception about the res?
It's not as bad as you think, you know?
I like that.
Yeah, like
Not that
nothing
bad.
is as bad as you think. In anywhere, you're gonna find a gutter spot, It can get a little Western, but it's not the Wild West. And I'm an enrolled member of the MHA Nation, the three affiliated tribes here.
Currently, you're in reservation, and that's in Newtown, right?
Yeah, I'm in Newtown. When reservations were getting made, there was forced assimilation. There was more Americanizing of people here. They were forcibly taken away from them and put into boarding schools around. Like one of my dad's brothers was all the way in Kentucky as like a sixth, seventh grader. They would kind of band together at these different boarding schools. You always see different initials on people's hands, little shout out tattoos with a pen and needle.
Yeah.
So that was my first introduction. Just like you're saying, reservations, there's a lot of population, but there's not any infrastructure around it. There's not cities, there's not these different things.
It's a whole different type of hood.
Yeah, the influx of Christianity and the influx of forced assimilation came a lot of rules that people still are ingrained with them through the boarding school, through historical people. We were people that were tattooed before.
Any of that.
Yeah, 1800s and back was tattooed people. One of my grandmothers, she comes from this band of Mandans called Izitopa, and that means the ones with tattooed faces. Poor Wolf, that is the last man from MHA that was tattooed in the traditional aspect.
What was your setup like?
Amazon.
That's
Yeah, I
Amazon
got the cheapest, biggest kit you could get, and
certified.
for a good year, I was fucking people up. Oh shit, I'm using a new needle and using a new barrel. I'm good now. Yeah.
Back
So
in the day, you were just indicting everyone to the brotherhood. This is something.
yeah. And I know your guys' aspirations are like hit these conventions. And to me, like if I did good in my town, I was like, I made it. And I know you guys are looking on the bigger scale. I'm gonna be the best tattooer for my res, you know? You
Yeah,
know?
that's my aspiration. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Some artists will say it's not even about the status. It shouldn't be about a status. It should be about bridging that gap, making the community back into our industry also. I
Mhm.
wish our industry was like a res, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that would make things so much different. Now, oh, dang, you're on that 3G, my boy.
I know, Frick.
What you been up to, bro? I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, life. I got a family now, and
Yeah, man. Congrats on that. So
yeah.
how old's your little one?
So I got a when I got together with my companion, she had a daughter already, so I got a 6 year old, and then I have a 2.5 year old, and then one on the way.
Dang, boy, you expanding the family, huh?
Yeah.
With that flag, you're gangbanging on me, bro.
Yeah, I had to hang it up. I'm actually in my office right now at work.
At work, what do you wait? What? Wait, do you got braids on, bro?
Yeah, frick, I grew my hair out too.
Yo, that is that's
Yeah.
baller, bro. You're like living about that life, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, your office. Were you like the office where you work out of, or
Yeah, so I still tattoo pretty often. We have a tribal museum here, and they're working on kind of revitalizing and keeping our culture alive. And there was an opportunity for a cultural coordinator to come in. And I had a couple friends that worked here, and then they asked me if I would apply, and I applied and I ended up getting the job. So, so now I picked this up while I'm tattooing. So it's pretty cool.
oh, that's good. So you didn't like stop tattooing, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. I'll see you still post work, and I was like
Mhm.
kind of I was curious to make sure that you had like you just stay on it and stuff.
Yeah,
What's
for sure.
how long you had this job?
Since October. So coming up on a few months here.
Welcome everybody back to the Tattooing Out Loud podcast. I have a very special guest via online. I met the homeboy on the road. Even though you're just getting into the industry, this whole idea of apprenticing popped up in your mind, and then your story to me was inspiring because here's a kid that is really you're in a different demographic of location.
Hmm.
Like your area is not congested in a very rural like city type of area. So it's not like you're exposed to or you're able to be exposed to mentors or inspiration of like in person one on one unless you had to travel out or you just had to have that kind of people be around you if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead and give us your intro, Meg. Let us know your name, how long you've been tattooing, what style you'd consider your style of tattoos, where you're located, all that good stuff.
My name is Zebediah Mossy Demaray. Everybody just calls me Zeb. I started tattooing June of 2018, tattooing heavily till about mid 2019, kind of right before we met. I'm really into traditional. That's what I like to do, but I do a lot of other different things, leaning more towards like Native American style. So it's kind of its own style as it is, because each different region has its own kind of art, and people like that tattooed on them, especially where I'm at. So, but I would say mostly leaning towards traditional tattoos. That's what I have my interest in. When I first started, I wanted to be a lettering guy, but
Yeah,
just like you're saying.
I remember you were kind of like you're entering the like this whole tattoo, the lifestyle, the art, and you wanted to follow this industry, this path of like career to kind of put in perspective for people that are like watching or listening. You had nothing as far as like what was exposed to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you had people you can just go to the booth next to you at all time and just be like, hey, I need help here, or can you help me with this? But I know you could have just as well done it all, and you still can obviously like get into like the black and gray liberalism and at least trying it out. But what makes it different in your case, like your situation is it's unique because you have to, it's literally like self-taught. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
it was self-taught. Because I see, I know a lot of your background and I know I've seen like a little bit of that growth in the sprout when we were chilling. And I don't know why I took it upon myself to like try to take you on as like a not a mini apprentice, but I was trying to like crash course you as fast as I could, as much as I could. You know what I mean? I knew that hey, here's this dude that really wants to get into it, and instead of me trying to like push you away or like not give you any kind of like tips or industry secrets, like if there are any, you know what I mean? Like the stuff that's like the traditionally passed down kind of mentorship. Because like for one, it's hard for anybody to be like, I can teach someone a tattoo, and because I've taken on an apprentice, and she took off with it, created her own like, success and everything, right? So, but a lot of it, I tell her, a lot of it was you, it's like I just kind of like gave you as much as understanding as much as I had, and this
Mm-hmm.
point forward, it's up to you to do, it's up to you to really make something happen out of it. I can't teach you how to perform. You have to, you know, put out the work. So you're getting into lettering and kept tight with traditional, right?
Yeah, for sure. So growing up here, there was a lot of tattoos, but they kind of came from boarding school, like the forced assimilation of my people here.
What's boarding
So it
school
was
like?
just a lot of.
What is that system like?
So now it's more modernized. Like there isn't any force breaking up of families or forced assimilation. Like when my dad was a kid, his siblings got taken away and they didn't have a choice when they were pretty young. I guess I really didn't mention I'm an enrolled member of the MHA Nation, the three affiliated tribes here.
Currently, you're in reservation, and that's in Newtown, right?
Yep, yeah, I'm in Newtown, North
Yeah.
Dakota right now. So just a little history on
Yeah.
when reservations are getting made. There was forced assimilation. There's more Americanizing of people here, and uh, my grandmother was born in the early 19 teens, like 1920, 1919, and her kids were all my uncles and aunts are pretty old. They were forcibly taken away from them and put into different boarding schools around. Like one of my dad's brothers was all the way in Kentucky as like a sixth, seventh grader and getting taken away. And they would kind of band together at these different boarding schools. And growing up, you always see different initials on people's hands, or the just some little shot out tattoos with a pen and needle.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction to tattoos, was just seeing my dad's tattoos from when he was like a little kid, and the different elders around, they'll have some pretty cool ones, like love, hate across their hands is
Right.
they're getting them as like fifth graders and stuff.
That's tough, dude.
Yeah, so that was my first introduction to tattoos here, and I had a relative move into our house when I was a sixth grader, I think, from a different reservation in Montana called Fort Peck,
Okay.
and he moved over here, and then yeah, shit, we
Yeah.
got our initials on our hands when we were like fifth graders, sixth graders, but yeah, so that was my first introduction, and then get growing up a little bit older, just like you're saying, reservations, they're not really there's a lot of population, but there's not any infrastructure on it. There's not cities, there's not these different things, but crime is pretty prevalent, and we're on
Right.
federal land, so anything is federally indicted. So people here don't go to state pens, they go to the feds. And
So it's almost like it's a whole different type of hood.
yeah,
I mean,
and
yeah,
it's like a lot of my tribe specifically, we don't really have a lot of the poverty issues.
sure.
We have a pretty okay money infrastructure, compared to other tribes, we're doing great. But you know,
Bel Air 57.
yeah, no,
We
yeah,
ain't
like
that bad. There's a
you'll see
struggle in
some
everything though. Yeah.
badass cars around, you'll see
Right,
some
right.
like some new Challengers and Chargers, and then you look at the other end of the spectrum, and then there's people that are still struggling to get clothes to go to school, struggling to
Sure.
eat. So,
That's a
and
really
it's all in the same town. Like our town has like 2,200 people here. That's our largest town on the res.
I was gonna ask you how what the population was there because I thought it was closer to 3,000, but 2,200 sounds a lot more like what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's pretty small. And then so a lot of people would go off, kind of get into trouble, do what they got to do, come back, and then they would be covered in, prison ink, head
Yeah.
to toe
So,
in
and
black and gray.
when you were growing up, did you ever hear any kind of like stigma that followed tattoos? See, I'm not sure. That's why I guess you're gonna educate me more with how people saw tattoos in the res. Was it normal? Like, for instance, when you showed up with your first tattoo, like, did your family school you of any kind, or was it like they kind of already foreseen that this was going to happen, or it's like, oh, it's whatever. Tattoos aren't that, we don't see that bad in our culture, or it's like, no, how is that ideology of tattoos in the res?
Yeah, so even today, there's still a little stigma with it, but it's kind of, not to sound like that guy or like, to be bringing up old shit all the time, but
Be that guy. No,
yeah, with the influx of Christianity and the influx of forced assimilation came a lot of rules, and rules that people still are ingrained with them through, the boarding school, through all of the forced assimilation. But our historical people, we were people that were tattooed like before,
any of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
1800s and back was tattooed people. One of my grandmothers, she comes from this band of Mandans called Izitopa, and that means the ones with tattooed faces. So historically, we were a tattooed people. And then moving forward, just like anywhere else, tattoos got that stigma where it was something that, certain individuals have, and not always meant that it was good things. But today, now, there's a lot of tattoos. I really can't think of much people at all that don't have tattoos, especially on our reservation. It's
Have
a
you heard, dude? Have you heard of the story of Olive Oatman?
what's that one?
I was gonna ask you about it. So this girl, she was a white woman with Native American tattoos that belongs to, let me see, captured by the Yavapai tribe
Mm.
as a young girl while traveling west with the family, the 1850s, and later adopted by the Mojave tribe, who tattooed her face as part of their tribe tradition. So I feel like she was kind of like indicted into the culture when she was eventually returned to white society with visible facial tattoos. And this happened in about 1851, and she was only like 13.
Yeah.
She was pioneer traveling towards Zion with her Mormon family. She's got like blue native marks on her chin only. She looks tough.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. It reminded me that when you said that, in the 1800s or like people were getting the tattoos in the native, like
Hmm.
that was like a more of, I mean, that's like the history on tattoos. That was a
Hmm.
very like tribal, like warrior kind of thing. It happened, and it was simultaneously happened like with Aztec, the Inca, Mayan, Buddhist monks, and you have, all these different cultures, and they're all
Hmm.
marking themselves. I think it's wild, especially like how the fact of communication back then, but they all had this idea to do that.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
like you're saying, the war and the ceremonial part of tattoos went hand in hand with a man. Everything was a ceremony.
Yeah.
And the people of my tribe where I'm from, the men would start on underneath the neck, go down, and they would just tattoo from shoulder to fingertip on the dominant side. So if you're right-handed, your whole right side was tattooed.
What kind
And
of
then,
markings were they? Do you know? Were they like symbols or were they like shapes of?
yeah, a lot of them were a lot of geometric shapes. A lot of
I
if
like
you want to look up on your
yeah, yeah, yeah.
laptop right now, look up Poor Wolf, Poor Wolf, and then tattoos, and that is the last man from MHA that was tattooed in the traditional aspect. Yeah, it's a lot of like honor marks, different kinds of rings, different kinds of diamonds, these different kind of designs that they would do. And a lot of it was is not only did you get the tattoo and it meant that you were, a badass, but
Right.
even being able to survive the ordeal of getting a tattoo without infection, without any of these different things. And they could take up to a year or two to do the whole thing because, life happens and they'll have to stop and go. And so just having the tattoo was a honor in itself too.
It's pretty bizarre that they even they got a chance to get a actual picture of him.
Yeah, so he was like 90, 92
Wow.
in that picture.
The tribe that you're a part of, where did they originate from in that area? The Mandan.
Yeah, so the Arikara tribe,
Yeah.
um, I'm a descendant of all three, Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara. And MHA is a nation that's pretty unique in itself because it's three different tribes coming together as a confederate itself for, you know, like-minded protection. And all three of them were agriculturalist tribes. That's what made them really stand out from other tribes. They lived in villages and inhabited them for up to a few hundred years at a time, so generations and generations. While kind of the Hollywood idea of an Indian, is in a teepee moving around, always moving this and that. But all three of these tribes inhabited cities. They inhabited these places for generations. So the Mandan and Hidatsa have lived in the upper Midwest region for since they can think of the Pleistocene era, since the cavemen and those days, as people think they're part of the Siouan language group. So the same with like Lakota, Dakota, Omaha, Mandan, Hidatsa, Crow. But our creation stories say that we come out of the ground and we just followed the river up. And then the Arikara is a Caddoan language speaking group. So they're really close with the tribes that you were saying earlier, down in southern North America, the
Sure.
like the Mexica and the Inca and
Yeah.
those, they have a lot of stories that's where they got corn and brought it up to us.
Mm.
And so they're a totally different language group, but just being around like-minded people, they came together. So there really wasn't a language barrier or anything there. They came together
Right.
and they had their hiccups. Mandans and the Rick Ross fought for a long time, but
What was
you
the
know,
what was like the purpose of the fighting, the war, like between them?
I'm sure it had a lot to do with language at first,
Oh,
infringing on each other's land, you know, and just some people are friends with some people that you don't like, and so
Yeah,
you get
it
into it.
translates to today, right?
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
they ended up all coming together at the Missouri River confluence and pretty much been together ever since. The Mandans have archaeological data that they've been around the Bismarck area
Yeah.
down into northern South Dakota, into Crow Creek area, like mid South Dakota, since year 900 and even before that. And the Hidatsa were over by Devil's Lake, which is on the eastern side of the state,
Oh, got you. Yeah.
around year 1100. And then the Arikara kind of broke off from the Pawnee, and they've been in the upper Midwest region for forever too. So they were all around each other, and sometimes they got along, sometimes they didn't. But after smallpoxes took the people down, then they, been together ever since, whether they liked it or not. They were,
Kind of unified.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a big story on the was it the Four Bears Bridge, right?
yeah,
Because that cuts across. It's a pretty lengthy bridge for being out in that.
yeah. So we never used to have these big rivers here, like these big lakes or anything. They were
Right.
pretty small. But then there's something called the Garrison Dam project. When they flooded the dam before the 50s, there was this kind of capital of the res called Elbowwoods, and there's all these smaller different communities around. And Elbowwoods is bigger than Newtown is today. And you think of that, in the 30s and 40s, that's a pretty big town.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of land there. Yeah.
Yeah, just like I was saying earlier, Mandan, Hidatsa, Rikra people, they were all agriculture people. They were people that farmed. They farmed corn, beans, squash, watermelon in the later years, or the upper Missouri, but in the lower parts of the Missouri, like the river bottom,
Yeah.
that was like prime farmland. But when the Garrison Dam project came up and it flooded everybody out, everybody had a few years to move whole towns, move everything. And it was against the will of the people, against the will of our tribal chairman, and the Corps of Engineers and the government kind of displaced people. So since we got this big river, this is like, you look on a map, this is pretty big piece of water here.
Yeah, that's
So
what I see when I pulled it up because I was even curious. I've never been up there to New. I've only heard about it, especially when you and I would talk about it,
yeah,
and also like the smaller in between towns and like
yeah,
where you go further up, like northwest, then it gets like then there's like outlaw lawless country.
yeah,
Bizarre how you would tell me about the warnings of like, hey man, if you go out there, mind your own and just kind of. I remember hearing stories of people talk about even from like Arizona, Utah. Like
mhm,
if you go on a hike, you have to literally you can't do these solo hikes like we do out here
mhm,
in California. Like we could go out there to like the Sierras or whatever and just kind of like a solo thing, and it's just like, all right, no worries. Not even the wildlife isn't too bad. A lot of people are pretty good of like seeing like, hey, there's a black bear up there, but be careful. But you get caught in the wrong area. You're hiking in Utah, right? In those Utah canyons and things like that.
yeah,
You're rolled up with turn around or you disappear, one or the other, right?
yeah. The outlaws in the Grand Canyon down there too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
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 wild,
wild.
pretty crazy. A
I
lot of
know.
people don't know about that. It's you
Yeah.
see it on TV or whatever, or like certain shows now. They'll start kind of shining some light on what it's like to actually live on the res. There's a few shows that have that.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever seen Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. It's a good show.
Yeah.
It's a funny show. They obviously like they have a lot of drama into it, but it just gives you an idea that there's a lot of struggle. So you can see where your surroundings or your environment, it's easy to fall into the going into that outcast life or getting
Hmm.
like the whole becoming a hellion or getting some tattoos, right?
Yeah.
A quick shout out to Helios Tattoo Supplies, one of the newest sponsors for the podcast. I'm proud to be a sponsored pro team member using their needles on the daily. Next time you're thinking about stocking up on supplies, head over to the website heliostattoos.com. Thanks again to Helios for sponsoring myself as an artist and sponsoring the pod. Your first experience seeing tattoos is like as a younger kid, you kind of just seen them like on your pops or whatever. What was it that really set you off to want to do like to go in and Like, I guess for yourself to be like, hey, this is what I want to do. I think I want to try this, or like, I'm all in. What were you doing before? What were you working?
We moved to New Mexico when I was a little like freshman year.
Yeah.
And then one of my older brothers, we lived in northern New Mexico and Las Vegas. And he had a lot of friends around the town and would kind of venture off and run around and stuff. And he started getting pretty heavily tattooed down there.
Yeah.
But I was still a little kid, so I really didn't do think too much about it or anything. A lot of our friends, a lot of the older guys we were around had tattoos, and I came back and ended up finishing high school and tried wrestling out in college and just
Right.
didn't I wasn't a very good student and stuff. So
So like,
so I
you
started
kind of have to like
boxing.
X'd out of wrestling, right? Because you
Yeah.
have to kind of keep your grades up to do that. Is that what the case or?
Yeah. So, going through your first heartbreak and all that, I didn't
Oh,
know what to do too
yeah.
much.
You're digging
And
deep.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I ended up taking myself out of school, it wasn't anybody's fault but my own. And
You got into boxing, you mentioned, because that's
yeah, yeah,
Zeb. Zeb's a huge boxing fanatic.
yeah, for sure. My dad was a fighter and my grandpa was a pretty dang prolific fighter. His name was Dick Demery. He had over 300 matches on record and even more off record. And he fought for the welterweight world championship against a guy named Fritzy Zivik. Fritzy Zivik picked up the title off of Jake LaMotta when Jake LaMotta beat um, Sugar Ray Robinson. Big thing for my grandpa to do that. So I always kind of knew it was there. Growing up, I fought a lot. I was pretty all right at fighting. Always could hold my own, especially against older guys, and so I picked up boxing and I started, you know, getting pretty good pretty quick, going to big tournaments and I'm light skinned kid, I had short hair, always a little chunk on me. I wasn't cut up or anything. So, I wanted to look a little more tougher. So I started getting tattoos and I had a pretty big brain injury.
Right, I remember that. You were talking about, what was it, like a concussion, or what happened to your, was it just uh what, taking too much shots to the face, or what happened?
Yeah. So like I would spar a lot and then I was fighting a lot. Usually people have a handful of fights, close to 10 a year in amateurs, and I was having like 26 a
Right.
year, going to these big tournaments and then a little extracurricular on the streets a little
Sure.
bit too. And
Practice, yeah.
yeah, and getting into it on the street and just not giving my brain a break. And it was just a accumulation of damage and concussions, and I ended up getting a subdural hematoma, a bleed on my brain, and I was in critical condition for a few days, and then regular ICU, and so that's where it kind of started. Once I found out how lucky I was to survive that ordeal, we're up to half or from half up to 90% of people that get that diagnosis of the subdural hematoma in their brain, they die. And I was one of the people that survived, and luckily with no major um, leftover symptoms of it or
Right.
anything.
I was curious because I'm sure I asked you in the past, but that hasn't affected you, right? As far as like, do you feel any kind of repercussions of like while you're drawing or tattooing or memory, any of that?
Uh, when I first started drawing, so that's kind of where I got into it. I couldn't watch TV; it would make me sick and stuff.
Oh,
So I just started drawing, and my eyes would like shoot off. Like I'd be looking, and then boom, it'd be like I'd look away. But
right.
it wasn't me doing it. Like it was just I don't know what it was, and I'm
Sure.
sure a symptom of having, such a major brain injury,
Yeah.
and
Can't be good, you know?
yeah, and but yeah, I don't really notice too much of anything. I'm already a guy who's pretty I'm a worry wart as it is, I got pretty bad anxiety as it is. So I didn't notice any lingering effects after, just besides like headaches and when I hit my head, I'm like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
But
Right.
other than that, it's just you know, being cautious. You know, I had to make a total lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I
Because I'm
wasn't
sure if, fighting was a really common thing in the res. I mean, because when did you guys move back to like how old were you
when
after?
I moved back. So
Yeah.
I only spent about a year in New Mexico,
Okay.
uh, if that. And it was just like the res down there. Like everybody was related. You know, there was people who were on a different agenda. You know, whether it be their neighborhood or their gang or whatever. But then other than that, it was like the same thing. You know, just
Where you see the gang, when you say gang, is it gang related to who they are part of? Like, do they
yeah,
or they just okay? So
yeah. It wasn't really
they're making new tribes, right? Like the new,
yeah.
yeah, that's wild.
There wasn't really anything going on here on our res, but when I moved to New Mexico, they already had their established connections there and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
and then when we got dropped in, we were dropped into a pretty fortunate place. My brother is was a skateboarder, and a lot of the skateboarders kind of were pretty we're already together. So and then I was coming from the res, when I got into it with somebody, you either fought them or, some of their brothers or whatever. But getting into it down there, people were it was more than just them sometimes.
yeah,
And so it's kind of got a little sticky situations every now and then. But
sure.
coming back here, I didn't spend too much down there at all. Like a year and a half maybe. But so my mom lived down there, my dad lived up here, and we had bounced back and forth.
Yeah,
Like, so we weren't there for a year, January to January. Like, we'd be there for like 6 months, come back for a few, go back. And till we all made the move back. And that's where so I've only lived off the res maybe 3 years of my life. I'm 28.
all you knew was res life, huh?
Yeah, getting back to the brain injury thingy, I all I could do is just draw, and I wanted tattoos. So I started getting a little more tattoos when I was boxing because, like I was saying earlier, everywhere I'd go around, it'd be a lot of inner city kids, or some real high caliber kids that come from big fighting families. And
Yeah.
I was just a kid from the upper Midwest from the res. I didn't even look like an Indian, I didn't look native or nothing, so I was like, shit, I need to get some ink, start
When I
looking a
first
little.
met you, that's what I thought. Until you
Yeah.
told me, and I was like, this guy's selling wolf tickets, man. I was like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
And I'm
like,
the only one that's light. All my brothers are dark. All my sisters
like,
are dark.
yeah, you're a
Yeah.
different breed.
So, yeah, everybody, I'm the Miklo of the family over here.
Miklo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you,
But, but yeah, so I started getting a little more tattoos just to look a little more cooler. But then after my injury, then I didn't take any medicine for it or anything. I'll just take Tylenol and drink a pop with caffeine in it because I didn't want to take the hard stuff because I took one and it made me sick.
yeah.
So my pain tolerance was really high. And then from then, that's when I just started tattooing myself.
Who was
I
tattooing at
really,
first though? Like, did you give yourself your first tattoo?
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. How did you get all that stuff? What was it? What was your setup like?
Amazon.
That's
Yeah, I
Amazon
got the cheapest, biggest kit you could get. And
certified
yeah, I tattooed an orange and posted on my Snapchat. And for a good year, I was fucking people up.
by yourself though, right? Like you were no shop. You're just kind of
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I
yeah.
was in the basement of one of our tribal leaders' houses because I was a security. But at that time I was laid up with a brain injury. I was a personal
Right.
security.
Yeah.
But I just chilled down in the basement and waited for something to happen, and just in that, just tattooed all the time.
So you had how was your clientele flow? Did you just
It was
have the
big, man.
come through? Yeah.
Yeah. So like people here don't care they don't care what's on their skin. They just want something.
Well, I'm sure if if word gets out, right?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
yo,
And
Zeb,
then,
all friends, things like that, right?
yeah, and I never charged for the first year, bring a bag of Skittles, bring me a pop or something,
Dang.
because I knew that it wasn't very good, but I knew that it would come to something. So
Sure.
even to this day, when I see somebody with some of my first stuff, I'm like, let me cover that up for you.
Yeah.
Don't be showing nobody.
That's your
But
history,
yeah.
but man, that's what a lot of my first few test subjects, they were close friends of mine, and
Hmm.
they have all my first work on their legs, and then they're like, "This is your history, dude." Because I would tell them, like, "Yo, let me do you a solid and like, rework all that or whatever." Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is where you started. We got to keep that as a, almost like it's like a novelty thing, I guess." Which is
Yeah.
funny because then their spouses will come in and they get this banging work, and homeboy has like a chafa leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "Yo, don't tell anybody I did that."
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a start. That was your start.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And that's like my legs, my chest, my stomach, my left arm, that was all me,
Yeah.
just learning needle depth, learning how to maneuver, learning, the ins and outs,
Right.
and
That's
scarred
wild that
myself
you
up.
even consider needle depth. Like that wasn't even a thing that a lot of people could comprehend. They just thought
Hmm.
it's like a pen. The
Yeah.
the barrel goes nice and deep into the skin and it pulls a line. It's like we're floating a needle bar. I think I told you about that.
Hmm.
I don't remember what I even because a lot of the times I'll tell people like if I when I was first apprenticing my other artist, she was like, I was telling her you just have to watch. Sometimes I can't explain what I'm doing. You're just gonna have to watch, and then that's how I started. You just got to pick up as you go. Especially if you're getting tattooed,
Hmm.
you're watching the artist, and that's how you kind of learn and see what they're doing. And that was like school, first class. You know what I mean? Like one on one. But so like the fact that you knew that there's a concept behind needle depth and there's a concept behind like trying to what a solid line looks like or how to shade. Like, did you ever go to the YouTube university or
Yeah, a little bit. I checked it out. I would notice like a little level up every now and then. Like I would do something and I
right
would be like,
consistency? You just had to stay open.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then I'd be like, oh shit, something would click. And then one of my relatives got home from the feds. And, that's where I got some of my bigger pieces, like my elbow, my neck, and my back. I watched him work on my elbow. And so for the longest time, my setup was on a Vaseline jar,
oh man,
like the whole thing was on something like that, just because I
nice
picked
and
it up from
compact.
him. Yeah, I was like, shit, this is tight, and I don't got to do a big old table or nothing.
Yeah, you're thinking practical.
Yeah,
On my
and
lap, I
then
could just strap a little Velcro on my lap or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I just started doing a lot of research and trying to figure stuff out. And yeah, YouTube was a pretty cool thingy, kinda.
There's a lot of almost any industry or how to do certain crafts. Like you go on there,
So the biggest thing I learned from YouTube was keeping clean, the setup, keeping it clean. Because man, that wasn't something that crossed my mind at first.
Oh yeah, when we were first starting, man,
Yeah.
no glove, no love. You would have
Yep.
homeboys on the bed, no covers, and then later that night you go to sleep on that bed where you
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's
And
just how it is. That's how it is.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
no clip cord covers. Like
yep.
there's a lot of things you're not thinking. I remember.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
just, oh shit, I'm using a new needle and using a new barrel. I'm good now,
basics.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Back
So
in the day, you were just indicting everyone to the brotherhood. This is something.
yep. Yeah, and but watching YouTube and learning that really quick, cross contamination,
Right.
the different things that come out of your body, that you can't go into other people's bodies. And yeah, so that was a big thing. And I had a roommate. We had a lease agreement. That agreement fell out. It was a little too much rent for me to pick up by myself, so I had to be on the lookout. And I had a buddy in Dickinson, Slade, that big old, you remember Slade?
I remember him, dude.
Yeah.
I was looking at the photos and the pictures that I took that you did on him one of the last few times that we were together. Like those
Hmm.
popped up, trying to help you out with as much as I can while you're tattooing. It's hard because who can say, oh, like we have it figured out when we're first starting.
Mhm.
But you had a lot of concepts down. I just, like I told you, man, like your homies, the close homies, just either practice on them or try all the new stuff on them or things that you want to try
Mhm.
out, like as far as your to redefine the skill or to say, hey, I need to practice. Like I remember if I wanted to practice black and gray blending or shading or how to pack color, that's when I'd call those boys, come over, shoot me your lead
Yeah.
quick. I want to try this. Practice freehand, practice like my very first portrait. You know what I mean? Like things like that. You got to have those homeboys that are just down for the cause.
Hell yeah.
Those riders. So Slay was like, that was your boy, right? Like he was your,
Yeah, that we grew up together. But yeah, I ended up hitting up Slade and seeing if I could come stay with him. And that's when I first reached out to tattoo shops. And that was the shop that we both worked at for a little while. And
for sure.
what drew me over there was seeing Tone, you
Yeah,
know?
Big Tone, man. Shout out.
Yeah,
Man, that guy has crazy knowledge too. That guy's like an elder in a young man's body.
yeah,
It's wild.
yeah. So I saw a skin working there and I knew I was all like, shit, I got to reach out to these guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
'cause,
what I
like,
did.
again, that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Like, you didn't really have a lot exposure to you,
Mm-mm.
or the best of examples, or the
Yeah.
best of people you can actually like valid artists that you can have show you or willing to show you anything. Because that's from your standpoint going into this. Like, that's a very hard thing where you also have to have somebody that accepts the fact that it's like, all right, I got to teach this. It takes time. It's a lot of commitment that when we're there as artists, like when we were traveling to North Dakota, it was more like grind time,
Mm-hmm.
which meant there wasn't a lot of downtime. And you saw it working next to me, man. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
the little bit of downtimes that we had was always when the job was done, right?
Yeah.
And that's when we would go and like, yo, let's go to the gym.
Yeah.
And it happens in the shops. Like when there's downtime, that's when we do something, whether it's something together or whatever the case, or get
Mm-hmm.
together and draw, or while we're sketching, that's the chance we catch up or like what's been going on. But you never really had that around you because for the most part, you moved to Newtown, right? Because you were,
Yeah, I just moved back.
but you were always by yourself though. You never had another, like you never cared to. Did you ever care to show anybody? Has anyone ever asked you? Because I haven't seen you in like, dude, it's been since before pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So has anybody ever asked you like, can you teach me how to tattoo or?
People like bring it up, they're all like, what should I get or something? And
Because they probably see you doing it and there's
yeah,
something they
and
want to like learn. Yeah.
and I have no problem telling somebody. People kind of approach you and or toss around the idea, or a lot of people here will. So we got like res tattooers, people that'll just get a machine and
Right.
and just go to town and blast everybody they can in a month period, and then they're done forever. And
Yeah.
sometimes people would hit me up when they're in that time period where they're tattooing, and I'll for sure give them some what I know,
Right. Up to whatever you
uh,
know, right? Like your
yeah,
knowledge.
and I don't know too much, but I'll for sure share what I can, and that's just because we usually all know each other,
Yeah.
everybody here, and it's like I'm not gonna act shitty to somebody I grew up with or something, so
Sure.
I just tell them whatever I can, but really there's a couple traveling artists that come through here from like Montana and stuff, but
Yeah.
I got a pretty good clientele base, so I don't like feel the need to be at a rival with anybody else,
Right. That's a good mindset, you know?
yeah, like shit, it is what it is. Some people can tattoo way better than me, so for sure go get tattoos. I'm cool with telling people what I can and can't do either, I'm pretty realistic about
Well, you
my
know your
approach.
lane. You know your lane
Yeah.
and you know your range. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I for sure tell people, I can try it out, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Today,
and
discount.
then
Today's a discount day.
yep, for sure. And but yeah, I got no problem with giving them other options too, So
Right.
no matter if it's the crappiest little shot out tattoo you've ever seen, or if
Sure.
someone's getting a half sleeve by somebody off of, states away, people here love tattoos. So
Right.
and other reservations. So there's always somebody on every res that tattoos.
There's
And
no shop though, right? There's no shop.
yeah, there's no shop. There's no really no
There's
shops.
no there's no
Yeah.
food. So, okay, why is that exactly? I'm just curious.
Uh, I think it just costs money,
Sure. Yeah.
costs money, it costs time, and a lot of people don't want to go all in sometimes,
Yeah.
and speaking for myself, we have no infrastructure in town for a shop yet. Like there's nothing, no buildings, anything to have a shop. And so I'm just waiting for something to get built. I know so we just like with everything else, we go through different governments here.
Yeah.
Uh different politicians will go through their different terms, and I'm waiting for a term to put up some shop fronts, because
So there's obviously like a system. Is that like a strict thing for because there's like a downtown, there's businesses there or no? Like,
yeah,
yeah, there's obviously like a businesses or shops, but not tattoo shops, right?
there was one for a little bit, but living on the res, it's a little different. So we have something called Taro, where it's Tribal Employee Rights Office. If you're a tribal member, you go through Taro. But if you're a non-tribal member, you go through the state, just like going to the health.
Like the health department guys, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so if you're going through Taro, you got a couple hoops to jump through. It's a couple different things that you got to go through. And it's just not plain as simple as, wanting to put a shop down as it is in other places, because not only do we have to answer to the city, we got to answer to the county, and then you answer to the tribe. So there's three different entities that you kind of go through. And so that way everything needs to be bulletproof. So I know people are always like, get a shed, or do
Yeah.
this.
It's a tough
And
shit.
it's like, shit, man, that's I don't want to get shot down. So
Right.
I'm waiting
You're trying
for,
to do everything legit, basically.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I got a room in my house, as ghetto as it sounds, and
But I mean, it's because you're working with whatever you have. Understand
yeah,
that it's not that easy. Also, I mean, you're putting out work. It's not like you're so to the day you'd probably be the youngest cat to ever have to be on here because previous artists that I've worked with or know or traveled with, and everyone's been some even more experienced than I have.
yeah,
And here you are, but it's like again, you're so limited to so many resources, and
mhm,
where you get your knowledge is very narrowed down to, like you said, online or something. But I mean, working with what you have, I understand it. It's not like I could sit here and be like, Zeb's a scratcher.
yeah,
You know what I
and
mean? I can't really
yeah,
do that because
and
there's a certain there's a guideline and a standard to what makes a scratcher a scratcher.
for
But
sure.
you have at least you have a lot of modern and up to date knowledge, and you're doing things right, and you're treating it like it's a legit shop because you equipped yourself with all the tools, and you
Hmm.
also like the fact that you want to go legit. I hear you out. It'd be hard if I was in the res, man. I'd be doing the same thing. Probably dig a hole somewhere, get like a container or something, you know.
Yeah.
But like it's so how did you find value in the art? Like did you just pick that up from working with people or like working with when you were at the shop or understanding that there's obviously like uh an income as a return doing this with tattooing? Like how did you start? Because if you're in the res, I'm sure I don't know what people do as far as for work, but people do work outside of it and then come back in, right? So it's not like there's not a like a currency, even though like you said, you guys are a little bit more established. How did you find value in your like in what you do? This is what it's worth. How do you break that down to anybody?
I like to work with people. I really don't have a set amount. Some people, just like when you guys are up here, you saw some people have oil money, some people don't. So
Right.
it's kind of unfair to say to this kid, like 250, and that's everything he has. That's everything that he literally has. And he's willing to give it to me.
Right.
But is that really ethical,
Do
And
you have
that's
like
kind
a
of,
sense of like a little bit of like artist integrity of
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I do price some stuff out that I don't want to do personally, but but
That's
other
staple
than
though. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like other than that, I'm more than willing to work, and especially on the res here, I do a lot of a lot of trades. I do a lot of bartering, whether it be people making stuff, blankets and stuff like that, which is still in our culture pretty top notch, just up there with money, because people are always in need of stuff, whether it be ceremonially or when there's a death or something. So blankets, yeah, stuff like that, a lot of material stuff. And
There's a lot of craft in that area.
yes, for
There's a lot of
sure.
handcrafted things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll take a L on a trade just to give it to somebody else,
Sure,
just
sure.
being like, well, this is cool. It's not what I want, but I'm helping them out and this could be something cool for somebody else. So
Right.
it's more of a sense of community. You do a shitty tattoo here, everybody's gonna know too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
it's everybody knows everybody, and even res to res, there's different reses here. There's the Turtle Mountain, Chippewa res, there's the Spirit Lake Dakota, Sisseton, and then there is Standing Rock, and then there's a couple other little communities. And
Well, I feel like it's definitely a different type of life there.
yeah, it's like
I could see you not adjusting to, like, you see the cities or the bigger towns and you're just like, I gotta go back.
yeah.
Just like I think you even mentioned that where you almost were getting anxiety out in, like, quote unquote the real world of
Yeah, for real. And Dickinson's
modern
the last
society, and you're like,
town.
yo, I
Yeah.
gotta go back to my hole, bro. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like the reservations and the Indian community as a whole is like its own its own community. And even though they're a few hundred miles away sometimes, it skips everything in between and news travels res to res
right,
really fast, more than it would be from like here to Dickinson or something,
sure.
so just having that network, you know, you do someone dirty or you do something shitty, everybody's gonna know.
That
So
follows. Yeah.
yeah, and that's not the only reason why I'm willing to work with people and stuff too. I got a family, I got a heart too, I've
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I feel like the whole,
yeah,
like,
and
you're in tune with it, you know?
yeah, and doing a lot of tattoos, shit, sometimes it's some people's like legit therapy,
Right.
like, or I'm sure everybody you've had on here knows when someone's going through pain and you're sitting there, you know, doing that, sometimes words just fall out,
Right.
and that helps
Oh,
people.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. They got
Yeah.
all artists, they all agree that it's like we all have this degree, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're a psychologist from doing
Yeah.
tattoos or whatever. I definitely see what you're saying of, being able to work with people and give somebody what you feel personally, what it's worth.
Yeah.
And that you have your range. I mean, that's a smart. You're playing the game. You're all everything you have as far as your system and your structure. I feel like this is very smart. Have you ever felt like you bit off more than you could chew in a tattoo?
Hell yeah.
So let's talk about that.
uh
Was because that's gonna be a hard lesson, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you
When
can't
I
phone a friend while you're tattooing. Like, bro,
yeah.
how do you fix
So
this?
for sure, when I went to the shop and my brother came in, I think I drew for like 2 weeks. I came here to tattoo, but I don't know if I'm ready. And so I tattooed my brother a couple times, and then they're like, "All right, man, go ahead." So you, Duke, and Tone were my three, like,
Mentors.
yeah, like I
Okay,
remember
lineup.
I'd be tattooing and be looking at Duke like, am I doing this right? Or you'll be all like, you guys will come in, check it out, and I'll be like, fuck,
Yeah, I think we're
man.
just busting your balls though, dude.
Yeah,
We're having fun with it because honestly, we haven't seen that in a long time.
yeah,
I don't think we actively had an apprentice, so it was fun to kind of poke around at you.
yeah, for
Never,
sure.
but we never like gassed you up. Where I guess we obviously wanted you, to grow and
Hmm.
better yourself. So that's why I had you spit shading, bro. Like
Yeah,
I saw your first paintings. I'm like, have you ever done like the traditional watercoloring stuff? Do you know how to do it? And you're like, kinda, And I was just like, all right, bro. I was like, sit down, and I
yeah,
you. This is again while we have like busy schedules,
Mm-hmm.
and the most I could, man, I want to just sit there and be like, all right, I'm gonna make you tattoo, or I'm gonna make you start the line work and practice this, right? And this is kind of like the fast crash again, dude. It was very crash course because like how much time we had to like spend together,
Yeah.
a lot, and we're just using the most of it. That's when I had you really like. But yeah, I remember the time we come in the room, we're just like quiet.
Yeah.
They kind of look at
And
me.
yeah, I'll be
I
like,
remember
fuck.
that. I
And
remember
shit,
that.
I still remember that day we sat down and you taught me to do that. And I still kept the first,
The very first.
flower I ever did, and I kept the eagle that you did. It's hanging up in my tattoo room.
Oh yeah, dude.
And I implement that same what you taught me to this day,
Right.
and for sure. So when I started tattooing and you, Tone and Duke were there, and you guys were the guys I felt comfortable around, and you
Sure.
guys are the guys that I would ask questions and sometimes not even ask, just come and watch you guys tattoo, and yeah, fuck, I remember the first time they gave me this lettering on this guy's arm, and I was like, and they told me the price to tell him, and I was like, fuck, man, like you guys should be letting me do this shit for free.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, bro, it was shot.
But you definitely didn't like that feeling of dishonesty of
Yeah,
like in your own lens, through your own lens, like you're thinking, all right, this is a little bit out of my comfort, my range, my
yeah.
I don't feel like I had enough practice. You didn't have enough sparring, right?
Hmm.
And then you're gonna go fight this heavyweight.
Yeah,
like
yeah. And I ended up doing it, and fuck, man, I knew it was shot. And I was just like, damn, man. And the client was happy. And I guess that's all that really matters sometimes. But I was like, felt sick to my stomach. I was like,
sure.
fuck, man,
Well, you feel like you started to grow that reputation means everything, you know.
Yeah, that was the first big one that I remember. Every once in a while, I'll come across one, but in a healthy way, not in like, oh, I don't feel comfortable doing this, but just like, all right, well, we're gonna,
Adjust it.
yep, we're
Yeah.
gonna adjust and not finesse the person, but finesse my art to where
Sure.
it can be something great, something that everybody's happy with. That was one of the first times I remember. Yeah, I wasn't used to anybody coming around and watching me either tattoo. So in the shop, I'd have sweaty armpits, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fucking holding my breath. But then it got to be second nature after a while. It was pretty cool though,
It's trial by
learning from you
fire.
guys.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
trial by fire for sure.
Yep.
I mean, it
And
was great that you had at least, like I said, some sort of, if anything, right? Some sort of
yeah.
people to just, help you out and with a little. I mean, if you were to think about it, how many hours did you actually have help to learn and to quote unquote apprentice to say, okay, I'm officially apprenticing, or this is like, because a lot of the time you had a very solo apprenticeship with no kind of direction or mentor, right?
Yeah, for sure. So just like going back when I saw Tone sitting in this lineup of you guys, I was all like, shit, I need to go there. And come to find out, it was like a traveling team,
That's what it's still
guys
there
weren't
for.
there,
Yeah, you ain't gonna have.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, damn, I was
All
kind
right,
of,
when do I start? Now.
yeah.
Sit down. Yeah.
I was kind of tripping, and I didn't get to meet any of you guys till a few weeks in, and
Yeah.
a lot of the time you guys would come at staggered times.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right, right.
we wouldn't be all together at once. Shoot, it wasn't really too much time that I really got to like. You guys didn't get the time to be like, oh no, do this,
I
do
want to
this.
say your official, like, okay, roughly a year and a half, something around the lines is an
Hmm.
actual like apprenticeship, but you're not really tattooing, you're not making any money. So
Hmm.
your apprenticeship was only like, if anything, like a month's worth.
Yeah.
If you were to break down all the time we actually spent, it was
Hmm.
maybe even less than a month,
Yeah.
with the hours. So that's very little time for you to have like professional. All right, this is the get down of a shop. This is the 101. Let's, because it's always like in steps. Let's work on this and have you just really crack at it. But then you just took the liberty of obviously you had to just sink or swim.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
just like, dude, doing it on your own. That's why I commend you. I commend you a lot for that because to where you are now, I'll see your art. And I was like, dude, you're bound to get better unless you stop. If you stop,
Yeah.
you're gonna stay the same. You're gonna be stagnant. The fact that you had that, I don't know, you found that motivation and you had the a purpose, right? Before you had a family, I mean, you're just because you're how old? You were like what, 22,
Yeah.
roughly, right?
Yep. Like yeah, 22, 23.
So at that age, I mean, you're just doing your 22-year-old life. I don't know if you really had like a purpose other than trying to just tattoo, right? That was just like your only drive, I guess, or
Yeah, so I that's all I just wanted to get better. I just wanted to be a tattooer, you know. I wanted to learn to tattoo and wanted to learn more about it, and that was like my only goal at that time because you know, to me my heart was broken from not being able to fight anymore. You know,
yeah,
that was my thing. And then I think that's what kind of drew us got us a little closer was the combat.
violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when you started telling me your story more so, and I was like, dang,
Mhm.
dude, like if you can't make it in anything else, we have to make this crack off for you.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I mean?
I know your guys' aspirations are like go to you guys gotta, you know, hit these conventions and a lot of people were but like to me, like if I did good in my town, I was like, shit, I made it, you know. And I know you guys are looking on the bigger scale.
Yeah, I
And
remember telling you that too, man.
yeah.
We got to think
And
globally.
yeah, and I was just like, shit, I'm gonna be the best tattooer for my res, you know? You
Yeah,
know?
that's my aspiration. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have your own competition there. Like
Yeah.
that's wild to think. You know, I won't forget the time when you completed the was it the axe, the
The
hatchet? You did like some like very traditional flash. Remember I had you paint?
oh, it was a skull with the knife going through
There
it.
you go. Okay. And I was like, all right, after you're done, and shout out my buddy Andy came in and he's like,
Yeah.
I'm down to get that. He was down, dude. And he's like, and I remember Andy and I had a conversation after, and he's like, dude, I was like, he's got a lot of potential. I'm like, he's doing really good. He just has to, just stick it out and keep going.
Mhm.
But that was the traditional, like, I guess that was like your the flash into what apprenticeship was about
Yeah.
towards the end, obviously. So it's like create your own drawing, like you sketch it out, transfer it into watercolor paper, you bang it out like a traditional tattoo flash piece, and then you tattoo it. Like that was
Mhm.
like the steps. But I mean, you're learning that within a week. You're like doing that.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, man. That you were able to see that and feel that. And then I felt the fact that you were able to do that. I felt good. And I was like, all right, cool. Like you picked something up, and then you were. Did you go straight into rotaries? You never really used a coil, right?
Yeah, I used the coil right away. That was my first one. But
Yeah.
as soon as I
But it was just an Amazon coil, right? It was just like
yeah, as soon as it got out of tune, I just pushed it to the
wrap.
side. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even know how to do anything with it. Like I knew once it started making some sounds when I would
Barking
try
on
it
you.
out,
Yeah.
then I was like, oh fuck, I need to get a new one. You know, this one's broke.
Yeah, you were using a
So
doorbell, bro. You weren't using a tattoo machine.
yeah.
Like those whole buzzers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ended up buying like the cheapest rotary that I could find and
Then because at one point you had a bishop though, right?
yeah, I used the hell out of it and then I got a bishop. You know, really looking up to guys that like
Soaking up game from whatever.
yeah, you know, and Bishop was fucking badass, you know. So I wanted to get one and it wasn't a little bit later that I think it was Duke. One of them was using Cheyenne.
Oh yeah, that's tone.
Yeah, tone. And then I, you know, shelled out some of my money and I still use it, you know.
Yeah, is that your setup right now? They're using the Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cheyenne Thunder, I think. It's the same thing, you know. Me and you were gonna teach me how to put together a coil machine, how to take it down and put it up, and
Yeah, I wanted to show you all that, dude. If I could, I used to have a machine shop set up in my garage, like legit build a machine from scratch, like get the quarter-inch steel plate,
mm-hmm,
like the math, like the graph papers. You measure out the square of the size
mm-hmm,
of the frame, like the measurements of where things are going to be, like the spring saddle, and then there's like the actual like where the coils are going to be, and the where the actual contact. You just kind of draw those points.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if I could do that, I want to do that again. I'm gonna like get back into machine building. But I was like, bro, like you have to learn that. See, again, that was like my mindset of trying to teach you like the traditional tear down, how to adjust it, and how to like put it together and find the flaw. Like if you have to troubleshoot your machine and find
Mm-hmm.
what's going off on it. Like if it's grounding somewhere, you have to know how to like find where that's at, things like that. So like
Mm-hmm.
the other day, I busted out my coils, and dude, it sounded like I just got off of an airplane or like a monster truck show. I was like deaf. We're so pampered and privileged and like spoiled with these quiet machines.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't even hear the TV. That's why I guess back in the day it made sense to bump the music.
Yeah.
So like, I my client got a very patriotic tattoo, and we were talking, and he's a good buddy of mine too. So he's like, "Hey, I want you to use the old traditional machines, like the old school." And a lot of artists to this day, they don't put that down. They continue to
Mm-hmm.
do all their art with a traditional coil machine. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're accustomed to the rotary and the weight and the way it works, like there are some machines that now they're making them like hybrid, but
Yeah.
used to that rotary process, you become so like that's all you know. I just knew the basics that when you're gonna pull out coils, you have to adjust it. You have to make sure the springs are good, the everything, right?
Yeah.
Contacts, screw, all that stuff. Before I even adjusted it, I just put the clip cord in and I fired it, and it just turned right on, right? Obviously, and I didn't have to do much adjusting to it. So that just shows you how like tried and true those things are. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, for sure.
like that rotary motor, bro. One day, unfortunately, it's gonna give out, and then you're gonna have to get a new one, which is gonna suck, right? Because
Yeah.
everything's just gonna get more expensive, and these some companies are like gouging the hell out of machines. That one time I did contact you asking for a machine, and it shows you what happens when technology fails.
Yeah.
Like the battery packs gave out on me,
Uh-huh.
and there's nothing you can do about it. Literally, I couldn't do any work without my machine. And here I am dependent, relying on this electronic battery.
Yeah.
Had I had a coil, that wouldn't have been an issue, right? We even, when we traveled to conventions back in the day, it was always staple to always take extra springs, extra rubber bands, the grommets, everything, like the O-rings. You just have to take all your tools to fix your machine on the spot in case it goes south, right? But when I was out there, dude, like the battery just shot out. It took a short something, and it was something, and I contacted the company, and they obviously like fixed it. But I'm like, dude, isn't that crazy how dependent we are on those things? Without that,
Yeah.
literally can't do anything. I wasn't gonna sit there and just be like bang out a big old piece of stick and poke or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not like you could find a smoke shop that sells machine kits. And there's no Amazon Prime next day delivery out there.
No.
So that's another thing, dude. You can't just like next day deliver a little cheap set and make it happen and like adjust it. Yeah, it was all bad, dude. But it was nice to get back on the coil to keep that practice, because it's a perishable thing. If you don't practice it, you're not used to it. And it felt good, man. It felt good to just the bangs of that coil do the hits. And
Yeah.
nowadays, if anything rattles in your machine because it's so quiet, it just sounds off, and your client will look at you like, you better check that.
Yeah.
Just hitting super hard. Definitely missed it. And client and I were talking. He didn't realize I turned on the usual machine I use.
Mm-hmm.
I turned that on, and then I compared it, and he's like, I didn't realize it was that loud. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, such a difference. My ear was ringing after, because I haven't worked with one, and we're so close to it. Your artist influences, did you ever get like inspired by any artist that you looked up to, as far as like did you have any artist from like a magazine or online? Who was your influence? What kind of art do you look up to as far as inspiration or referencing?
There is some like local artists, not local, but local to Upper Midwest around here, like different natives that tattoo.
Yeah.
But like as like on a larger scale, I like the Chuco Moreno,
Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then like well obviously you guys, I look at your work a lot and
Sure.
Tone's work a lot. Tone does a lot of different
Dude,
Native
he's been doing
American
some
style
really
work.
cool. You mentioned the native. like the
Yeah,
artwork. That guy has that down pat. He transitions that into tattoos. I mean, you could tell a lot of his clientele are just there, like the people, you know?
the Southwest designs there, how he does them, is wicked. A Sean Topper,
No,
uh,
right.
Tim Hendricks, and
Yeah.
those guys, like they took American traditional and kind of got their little style from it. Even the big old straight up traditional stuff. I don't know this guy's name, but he on Instagram it's Uno Master. He works with like Javier De Luna and those guys quite a bit.
Is
And
that?
Javier De Luna, I check his stuff out a lot. It's like real straight up traditional. Pretty much that whole crew.
I can definitely tell that's all the inspiration. Looking at your work, especially the way it's evolved and developed, you're doing some things that are, again, with what you're limited to. Like a lot of your art is very, like you could see a lot of the inspirational things. And I like that you have very roots tied into it in culture because then it makes it more personal. And in a way, you're doing the things you like to do without
Mhm.
people knowing. But then you, with adjusting certain things, like you said, like, hey, I'll rework it if you think you can't do it, it becomes your style. Remember, I told you do thousand roses, and
Yep.
eventually you're gonna know how to do it off the top of your head.
Yep.
But I love the fact that a lot of your artwork does, and you're banging out some lettering. You're getting the letters down. How did you find your comfort with needles, like grouping and stuff? You don't do any 3 round liner artwork or
Not really. My go-to is a 7 from Saltwater Tattoo.
okay.
Like that's like I go through boxes of those. Just a 5.
Freehand. Look at you trying to freehand now, bro.
Yeah.
I'm
A,
talking about.
a 5, just a 5. I use a 15 curved mag usually. And those are like my 3 go-to.
That's cool. A lot of your patterns that you're doing. What about Flash? Are you still drawing Flash and stuff like that?
Yep. Yeah. I'm still pumping it out. I still do quite a bit of watercolor. My kids, they really like to try it out too. So we get a whole station up. It's a whole ordeal now. So
How old are they? How old are the kids?
6 and then 2.5.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna be 7 in March. I know the industry, like myself, kind of looks on guys, not as a whole, but a lot of people will be like, like what the fuck's this guy doing, but
what
just
in
like
what in
you're
what aspect? What do you mean?
like that I'm tattooing out of my house or
Oh yeah.
stuff
Well,
like
that's why I
that.
said I don't know if anyone can consider you a scratcher though.
Yeah.
Knowing your situation, your surrounding, there's a lot of limitations, right? Like
Hmm.
you feel limited and you feel very enclosed, encapsulated. Dude, you're on the res. Everything as much as you can outreach, everything's within that area. It's not like you can
Yep.
branch out just as easy as you don't have those. And even where I am, like Central California, I'm very limited to what is around me or what's exposed to me with other artists. When I did a live podcast with my other boys, he's in LA, and we started 2014 traveling conventions. I met him at a convention where he is now, where everyone is now. It's like talk about growth because we
Hmm.
knew, like you said, this has to crack off. Like you said, this has to become something. We didn't know what it was going to become. All we knew is what's in front of us, and we just took that on, like head on. Going there and being around him and just getting a whole new spark of motivation and game. There's always something you can learn.
Hmm.
You always stay the student is something that another guy. I don't know, considering you a scratcher, like, well, what is he doing? Working with what you have, and you obviously have this goal of one day, hopefully. What's it going to take for them to pass a different like system for you to for everyone to allow you to like open a shop?
I think realistically, it can be within 5 years,
Oh.
5 to 6 years.
So by then, maybe your little ones could join in, and now you have
Yeah.
a family shop.
Yeah, and
Don't need school. It's like,
yeah, and I was, talking to Tone like if that ever does happen, should I have to get you guys up here?
oh, absolutely. So wait,
Yeah.
is there what's to get onto the res? Is there any kind of like
No.
ID at the door?
No, our res isn't like that. There is a couple that, you pretty much have to have a pass to come in.
Yeah,
But our res is we're in the middle of the oil field, the Bakken. So
right.
there's traffic like crazy, and whether that traffic brings good or bad it isn't up to anybody.
Sure.
It's not really anything. Just like another town, except here. the reservation it's a sovereign tribe. We're our own government within United States. We have our own set of laws, and everything that we follow is federal. It's no longer state.
I'd love to use that someday. Just be like, your laws don't apply to me, boy.
Yeah. Yeah, so we got like even in town, if I get pulled over by city cops, the city cops can't do anything. They have to wait for tribal cops.
That's right.
Yeah, but then
But it could be good or bad, right?
yeah. Yeah, and like if you have a state warrant and you go on the res, you're good. As soon as you cross the res line and you get picked up, you're going.
Touch this. Yeah.
And vice versa. So
Right.
it can be a little confusing, a little bit crazy sometimes, but it's really not that bad. Nothing's really that bad. For sure, anywhere you go, you look for trouble, you'll get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look for bad shit anywhere, you're gonna walk into it, and you hang out the wrong crowd, some rank shit's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
but for the most part, it's cool.
I remember a story when we were all traveling to El Paso and we were tattooing at a convention in the military base.
Mm-hmm.
It was like within the base, right? So this is why I was curious because we were coming up to the actual gate, that we have all our luggage. And then the driver looks back at all the artists and he's like, all right, everybody get your IDs out. And we all started like, why?
Uh-huh.
Like, I didn't really think about that. The fact that at the base they have to check and scan your, it's not just checking it like to buy alcohol, right? No, it's like, they're checking it and they scan it because they're like mini background checks.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys were sweating it in the van, dude. They're like ready to jump out and be like, yo, I don't know if I have any warrant for me. And it's like, I guess we're about to fight. So it's not restricting, right? You can actually.
Yeah, no, not at all. Granted, if you do some dumb shit, you can get banned from the res, where you're no longer allowed. But no, it's nothing like that at all. There's no like armed security at gates, and there's just a sign when you come in entering Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, leaving Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. Yeah, it's not like
It's not like an actual like gated.
Yeah, no, not at all.
All right. I was thinking maybe it was like high border patrol or something.
Yeah, no.
Industry inks have been around for a while, and recently they expanded their pigment range. Everything from your primary colors, opaque grays, brand new anime skin tone, bright neon fluorescent tones, gray wash set, and black lining ink. If you haven't yet tried out this high quality pigment, head on over to industryinks.com. And with your order, you can take advantage of a special promo code using OUTLOUD for an exclusive discount. Try out their new range for yourself, and thanks again for the partnered sponsorship.
This job you have right now, is it at the MHA Nation?
Yep. Yeah. So I'm a cultural coordinator and marketer at the MHA Nation Interpretive Center. So
they didn't look at your tattoos and they weren't like, how did this come about? Is somebody like, they know you? And
yeah, I'm pretty involved with our traditional and our cultural way of life here.
I was going to ask, what's not your status, but like, what's your position in the tribe? Like, what do you know how they have like shaman or like,
Oh yeah. We don't really have kind of stuff like that here. It's just more kind of open, a younger man who's willing to help, somebody who's whether it be work or visiting or trying to learn, amateur historian, anything, I try to learn everything that I can. The group of people that work here at this interpretive center. So the interpretive center is a historical museum. There's an art gallery. And then the whole mission statement is to preserve and revitalize our culture here. So we do like different events, we do different talks, presentations, bring people through our history museum and tells the history of our three tribes. But it's a really young group of people that work here. And I have a couple friends that work here, and this job opening came up and I didn't even think I was going to get it. I just did it to say like, oh yeah, I handed in an app because like, you needed a 4-year, you needed these different kinds of check marks and I haven't worked since like 2017, 2018. Like I haven't had a lot of experience on paper. Yeah. and everything's just
Like
been
I was an
training.
apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had no prior work history, anything like that, and ended up giving me a call and came in and accepted the job, and so that's kind of what I do. So I'm like a cultural liaison for the tribe here. Like I go make connections, visit with people, I help educate, I help do tours, I help put on events that are educational and stuff for our tribe so that our own tribal members and others around can learn too.
That's legit.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing it. It's
Yeah,
crazy. I
that's
can't.
cool. When you said I'm in my office, I'm like, oh, is that like your tattoo shop?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. That's cool though. So this job, and then you have, how do you schedule your time to like tattoo now?
Weekends, I tattoo, and then if somebody wants something reasonable during a weekday, then I'll do it in the evening.
It all depends on schedule, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And then drawing just when I get the free time. Right now it's winter. It's pretty laid back here at the job, so I do what I got to do with my work schedule, and then other than that, just studying, reading, or drawing.
That event last time I went out, you invited me out to, was it like the sauna?
Yeah, I invited you to a sweat.
Okay, so the sweat, what was that like? Was that an event you guys threw or you just a bunch of homework?
That's more of a ceremonial event. So it's like a sweat lodge ceremony is where put these rocks and you build a fire on these rocks. So these rocks are red hot, they're ready. And you bring them in and there's a pit in the middle of this lodge and we all come in there and there's water that's put on these rocks and it gets pretty hot. It's pretty dark in there. And
Right.
That's
So that's very like spiritual time, right?
yeah, for sure. It's a ceremony where, you can be cleaned off. You can pray about things that you want and be there to pray for others as well.
And cut weight.
Yeah, for sure. You lose a lot of weight in there.
I remember the time we went to a sauna and you were like, I hate this place, dude. I can't do more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I got PTSD from wrestling or something like that.
Hell yeah. Freak, be going in the saunas with trash bags on or sitting there in a sauna and have a hotel key card scraping the sweat off your back, getting everything you can out of your body to make weight. I'm gonna have to have you come over and pick you up or something.
So I'm coming out soon. I just wanted to do this sooner. I'm planning some dates out. Again, it's just like you, man. We have to figure out the whole scheduling thing. Your hobbies right now, do you have downtime or have you picked up anything? Because I know you have the classic cars going on. You still have those?
I ended up selling them when
okay.
Yeah, but I sold one to my brother, so it'll always be there.
Yeah.
Just my hobbies are, bro, I don't really do too much, man. Go to work.
On downtime, any kind of outlet, what do you do whenever you're not tattooing, you're not at work? It's just like family life. That's basically it. You don't have anything that you're actively doing outside of it? No boxing or training?
I need to start training.
I was going to ask you, when was the last time you went to the gym?
Shit, it's been a while. Or I was lifting weights yesterday, but it's hard to get motivated if I don't have a goal, like I know having good health should be a good enough goal, but then I'm like, fuck, it'll be all right, like when I was
full preserves you, dude. You're good.
Yeah. When I was fighting, had a goal. Like, I got a fight coming up. If I don't perform, if I'm not
right, you got to be on sharp.
If I'm not dialed, then I'm gonna get my ass whooped,
Like game or anything like that?
Every once in a while, I play Xbox, I play UFC on it, but usually, bro, I'm pretty involved with our cultural lifeways here. I'm usually out getting wood for sweat, cutting wood, trying to help where I can. If I'm not tattooing, if I'm not at work, then I'm doing something for a ceremony, doing something for these different events that take place outside of work, pertaining to like traditional way of life or culture.
That's interesting because I remember Chet mentioned to me that he was next in kin, or he was supposed to be like they were going to promote him to be almost like a medicine man.
Mm-hmm.
But then he mentioned to me, what sucks is when you do that, you basically have to drop everything else.
Yeah.
And you saying this, it kind of makes sense. It makes sense. Like it's parallel to that's life, right? Mm-hmm. Like that becomes life. Like you're heavily involved. It's like, in cultures and religions, there's a lot of very present.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically like your whole shift of when I last seen you, seemed like not that you had a lot of freedom, but you just had a lot of like a lot of leeway, a lot of room to go do this or go do that. Now you're just so like honed in to just like the life on the res, right? That's like
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. When I was living in Dickinson, I was doing what any 22-year-old
yeah,
20
just
year old would
22-year-old
do.
life. Yeah. Now you're all grown up selling all the toys, bro. I thought you was
Yeah.
what was it? What year
Yeah.
was it? It was a Bel Air, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had a 57 Bel Air and a
Yeah.
62 Corvair. They're all gone now.
All grown up. Don't sound too
Yeah.
bummed about it, bro. Yeah. You just got to reminisce on those days.
Yeah.
Just do what I do, print pictures of the cars and be like, once I had this.
Yeah.
Goals as far as have you thought of any plans as beyond the year? This year, do you have any plans, or whether it's like your own personal goals or tattooing goals? Because I know just from the person you are, I just know that you're just going to continue to be at it and continue to try to better yourself. But like, do you have anything planned in the books for a month or the year?
Throughout the summer, we'll be pretty busy.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you see it on my Instagram, I'll be like, oh, I'm heading out for this month, attending different ceremonies, different things, going out of town for a little while. So usually the first few weeks of August, I'll be gone. And then a couple weeks around June 21st, I'll be gone. And then maybe about a week, July, I'll be gone. Those are all going to sun dances, to ceremonies.
The Sundance, what's behind that? That's like an actual ritual, like kind of a ceremony or what?
Yeah, so it's usually takes place over 4 days, where people get together and you pretty much give thanks, you fast, you don't eat or drink for 4 days, and if you choose to, that's where you give a little bit of yourself, you give a little bit of flesh, and then that will wrap up your ceremony time for that until the next year. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. All the traditions and the practices,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it makes for a humble person. And just like all the times I met you, I think that's why I was just like, yo, I'm gonna adopt you and bring you out here and like get you to work. But I probably would have, I probably would have broke you, man. And
I know I need one of these days, bro. I'm gonna need to come out there. I never been to California or anything,
yeah, it's all right. We're
yeah.
kind of
Well,
deep waters right now, but
yeah, just to come kick it, to
oh,
come.
for sure. I always said
Yeah.
like it'd be cool for you to come out and update you with whatever I can, just to have you watch and do some work too, and
Yeah, for
come
sure.
see the great outdoors that we have back here. It's different than the plains and the north and the Nodak.
Yeah, they say you can watch a dog run away for 3 days over here.
Oh, I remember how cold and how windy it is, and everything blows in. There's nothing to stop that wind, and I was just
Yeah.
not used to that. Californians wouldn't survive out there. And it's funny, the people I did run into out there that are from California, they're just out there for one purpose. They're just out there trying to get the bag, and then they come
Yeah.
back. It's like certain clients I would tattoo, and I'm like, what brought you out here? And exactly that. They just work or run from the law.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that you're still working at it, working at your craft. Such a homebody to the res, I think it's pretty cool that you trying to make a lot out of it from nothing. From rocks, you're trying to make that lemonade, You're pretty consistent though, right? Like with your tattooing, you always have people like as far as like your regulars now, I
Yeah.
imagine, right?
Yeah, for sure. Always got some DMs, there's it's always there. It's just a lot of the times it's finding the time to get to that. I wish I could tattoo everybody
Sure.
that I could, but sometimes you need to, wait a little bit or
Yeah, priorities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything you've been through in life up to this moment and looking back on your past, if someone were to come and ask you for advice, what would you tell them? Personal advice or anything? Like, what would you say trying to find your place or trying to find the calling of a family, or what would be your biggest take from everything, I guess?
If I could talk to myself when I was 19, around there, 18, everything that's happening might not be normal, but it's okay. Everything will be okay. There's no reason to self-destruct, no reason to do any of that. Things will be okay, things are okay. And stuff happens when you're that young, deaths around and going through these different things, and that's all normal shit. especially where I come from, you know, that's normal stuff. And to the majority of people, it is normal, and it's okay to have these different feelings, these different outlooks. It's okay. Everybody's unique, but at the same time, as a male, you kind of, you know, we're looked at as not feeling so much, but it's okay to feel a lot. It's okay to be hurt sometimes, you know. Things will work out the way they work out, and maybe we can tweak a little things here and there, but things are good and they will be good. I think that's what I would say to, like, if my younger self came up to me, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You know, obviously something happened to you where you started developing this anxiety, and we all get tested, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, it all depends what you do with that on the other end and how strong you come out of that. Obviously, that's been said. I admire the fact that you don't have much around you to, you just have a screen if you want to look up, like nowadays, resource with internet to find a good tattoo or to find just traditional references, even like for line work or to perfect something or to just, you know, grow in your art. I like the fact that it seems very like you're very grounded with also, think about it, you guys are kind of separated from a lot of the common culture.
Mm-hmm.
You next to the next dude around this area, like for instance, if I were to put you guys two together, it'd be totally different attitudes, mindsets, characteristics, demeanors, you know, or
Yeah.
motivation. Very interesting to see this dude just really no one to show him nothing. You just knew the basics, ran with it. And yes, if you would have had a full on apprenticeship, you would have been so much further more advanced
Mm-hmm.
where you are now. But given the fact that you have this much little bit of time being worked with, and a lot of it was like boots on the ground, dude, you were just like, I'm gonna figure this out. Like, I can't tell you, like, dude, do this realistic, you know, Poseidon.
Yeah.
Like, go get bent, dude. I'm not gonna do that. You know, I like the fact that you're staying in your lane and
Mm-hmm.
you're growing from that. Yeah, man, it's been dope. It's been dope to just to see you continue to progress. I have a lot of stuff I want to send over to you, or if I can make this trip happen soon, I want to like get together like a care package for you because I got so much stuff for you to work with, and
Hell yeah.
oh, it's like I feel like if you had motivation around you, there's a shop you can go visit or guys you can
Mm-hmm.
work with, things would be different. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be right to take you away from a community where you're just so like your roots are so planted and you're like
Mm-hmm.
really following this you're doing a lot for the I didn't even know you're involved with all that. It's now following deep waters into the tribe and you're like, dang, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you got the
When
brain.
I
Yeah.
was younger, or like my dad was a ceremonial person, you know, all my uncles, my aunts, you know, they all sundanced in the early 2000s, late 90s. And I was around it a little bit when I was younger, but it scared me. So I went the other way. You know, reconnecting with that and coming back and picking up where I left off gave me a sense of almost identity, not necessarily that I'm this or that, but just like what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, identity as
Yeah.
far as like what you feel like another sense of motivation. You found that calling because you can easily be outcasted into not really pursuing what you're supposed to
Yeah.
as without and it's again we don't know what we're supposed to fall into, but the fact that you haven't quit, you know, and that's the
Hmm.
biggest part. You're going to continue to get better in tattooing, and as far as like learning this cultural history, and as long as you stay at it, and I know if you were to reach out to Tone, he'd be able to, you know, help you out with things. Also, like that's a cool thing though to see that a lot of artists from different places were willing to show this nobody. And that just shows you a lot of our backgrounds.
Hmm.
The most I could just soak up game, dude. Just show you as much as I knew and go from there. And if somebody was around to teach you, I don't know if you would have motivation to leave because it can be an addicting thing to just stay on tattooing. And you're just wired that way.
Yeah.
Then it'd be hard for you to stray away
Hmm.
unless you had a motive to leave. And then, you know, because you're doing great things now and it's kind of hard to take that back, you know, to turn around from where you are. So
Yeah.
if you're not busy tattooing, stay busy with artwork.
Hmm.
That was always said. The best you can, just try to stay on top of that art because that's, you know, working out that hand. And where can people find your work, man? Where can I know you don't have an official shop, but
Yeah, no.
check out some of your stuff. Or if like for the MHA, the museum, where can people get more information on what you're doing and also like your tattoo artwork stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So the MHA Interpretive Center is just the MHA Interpretive Center. You could just Google it. It'll be the first one up there.
Yeah, that's what I did, and it popped right up.
Yep. And then I have an online portfolio on Instagram. It's just Zeb D Tattoos.
Zeb D.
All together. Yeah.
Yeah. You have some banging work, man. You have some stuff that you've done, and with not much instruction, you've ran with it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's very kind of your studio setup is still legit like a shop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Government can't touch you. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah. I even tattoo all the law enforcement and stuff here too.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh,
cool.
they know the get down. They know.
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah.
Right. That's just how life is there. What would you say, dude? What is the most misconception about the res that people would have? Like, what are some things that you've heard in the past?
I would say it's not as bad as you think. No.
I like that.
Yeah, like
Not that
nothing
bad.
is as bad as you think.
Right.
You know, you go in anywhere and you're gonna find a gutter spot, you know,
Sure.
you're gonna find a rough spot.
Yeah,
But
sure.
just like with anything else, you know, who you surround yourself with and what your intentions are will be good, you know.
Right.
It can get a little Western, but it's not the Wild West. Just like anywhere, get into anything anywhere. For the most part, you know, it's good people here for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, just like anywhere else, there's always the something to balance it out, you know, where there's some good shit, there's gonna be some bad shit. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's just my biggest,
Like
what I can say.
like common things that are heard.
Yeah, like it really ain't that bad, you know. Reservations in general are a place where people were put there, and you know, there was a time here where people couldn't leave. You had to have a passport to leave. They made do with what they have, and that's goes for every reservation.
Yeah.
You know, they were boundaries that were set, and this is where you guys are going to live, so make best. And you know what has culminated today is, you know, we're all just trying our best, and
That's
it's
literally
really
what
not,
you're doing. That's literally what
yeah.
you're best at what you do and your interests. So it's like, man, I see you, bro. I see all the things you're doing. Keep at it.
Heck yeah.
This has been Tattooing Out Loud with my boy Zeb. Thanks for everybody listening. Yeah, man, this has been dope, dude. I'm glad we were able to finally get together after many times of planning.
Yeah, bro. Thank you for inviting me on your.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I wanted you part of it no
platform.
matter what. Yeah. And I'll definitely get all the, information that we spoke about. And
Heck yeah, thanks, bro, man. It means a lot to, you know, be on this platform. You know, there's been so many big names and established people on here, and you given me a little opportunity to shed some light on just like what you're saying, you know, my situation, and you know, I hope just like how you see the good side of it, everybody else can too, you know.
absolutely. Some artists will say it's not even about the status. It shouldn't be about a status. It should be about bridging that gap, making the community back into our industry also. I wish our industry was like a res, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that would make things so much different. Now it's all about like a tier. It's like a pyramid kind of thing, unfortunately. And who knows what it's going to be like. Tattooing is going to be the same. The artist is what's going to change it.
Yeah.
Technology is going to change, but fundamentals of tattooing and things like that, it's been done, a little reinventing, but it's not too much of a different wheel. You know what I mean? When did you start tattooing? What year was it?
2018.
So from 18 to now, given with what is around you, making it happen, you're doing great. You're doing a lot of stuff that if you would have had more attention, which you don't have that kind of opportunity, but it's still, you're making it a lot happen out of nothing. So it's something that's very unique. And I think that's why I'm like, yo, I got to have Zeb on here too. Whenever you need any kind of help, I'm here to help you out. And I'm sure if you hit up any of the other guys, it'd be cool to get you to, just show me updates of like,
okay.
You know what I mean? Send them over.
Yeah, I will, bro. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, man. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, we'll stay in touch.
All right, late.